Hey guys, back today with another love dare. This is day 25, and day 25 is love forgives. 2 Corinthians 2:10 says, "What I have forgiven, if I have forgiven anything, I did it for your sakes in the presence of Christ." This one is tough, perhaps the toughest dare in the book. But if there's to be any hope for your marriage, this is a challenge that must absolutely be taken seriously. Counselors and ministers who deal with broken couples will tell you that this is the most complex problem of all, a rupture that is often the last to be repaired. It cannot just be considered and contemplated, but must be deliberately resolved. Forgiveness has to happen, or a successful marriage won't. Jesus painted a vivid image of forgiveness in his parable of the ungrateful servant. He described a man who owed an overwhelming sum of money, being surprised when his master totally canceled his debt. But upon release, the servant went out and found a poor man who owed him a small amount and mercilessly threw him in prison for not paying it. When the master heard of his lack of forgiveness, he confronted the servant and put the original debt back on him. His lord, moved with anger, handed him over to the torturers until he should repay all that was owed him. That's found in Matthew 18:34. Torturers, prison. When you think of unforgiveness, this is what should come to mind. For Jesus said, "My heavenly Father will do the same to you if each of you does not forgive his brother from your heart." That's Matthew 18:35. Imagine finding yourself in a prison-like setting. As you look around, you see a number of cells visible from where you're standing. You see people from your past incarcerated there, people who wounded you as a child. You see people you once called friends, but who wronged you at some point in life. You might see one or both of your parents there, perhaps a sibling or some other family member. Even your spouse is locked in nearby, trapped with all the others in this jail of your own making. This prison, you see, is a room in your own heart. This dark, drafty, depressing chamber exists inside you every day. But Jesus is standing nearby, extending you a key that will release every inmate. He's telling you to forgive them all. No, you don't want any part of it. These people have hurt you too badly. They knew what they were doing, and yet they did it anyway. Even your spouse, the one you should have been willing to count on most of all. So you resist and turn away. You're unwilling to stay here any longer. Seeing Jesus, seeing the key in his hand, knowing what he's asking you to do, it's just too much. Let me stop there and talk about that. This judgment. It talks about the fact that these people have done things to you. They knew what they were doing, and they did it anyway. It's not a true statement. Judgment, and why God tells us not to judge from that perspective, is because we do not know why people do what they do. We assume to know a lot of times, but there's no way you can get in someone's heart and get in someone's head and get in someone's framework and get into the timing and the sequence of what they did and how they did it and why they did it. You have no way of knowing that. No way at all. There's no way that anyone knows that. And so that's why he says don't do it, because that is a position that only God holds. There's only one being who knows exactly why people do what they do. And God is absolutely forgiving and merciful and long-suffering to a degree that we can't even fathom. And so for a limited being who does not know those things, don't assume that you know why somebody did what they did, because you don't. And it's just gonna be a trick to hold you in the position of unforgiveness, because unforgiveness is one of the ultimate lockdown jobs. I mean, you can't have a whole heart, you can't have a satisfied life, you can't live in fulfillment and have the offenses and the unforgiveness. I heard it said that You can't carry the cross of Jesus Christ and an offense, meaning and offense as well. You can't carry the cross of Jesus and offense at the same time. It's just not possible. You have to let go of offenses. You know, the word picture there is offense, but you know what I'm saying. It's too difficult. You let Jesus pay the price, and then we follow in the same spirit that put him on the cross. The spirit of the cross is forgiveness. It's love. It's compassion. It's mercy. It's long suffering. It's ready to go the long haul for the benefit of another person. So I'm getting a little too wordy here. Let me get back to my. But in trying to escape, you make a startling discovery. There is no way out. You're trapped inside with all the other captives. Your unforgiveness, anger, and bitterness have made a prisoner of you as well. Like the servant in Jesus' story who was forgiven an impossible debt, you've chosen not to forgive and have been handed over to the jailers and torturers. Your own freedom is now dependent on your forgiveness. Isn't that amazing? This is so true. Coming to this conclusion usually takes a while. You see all kinds of risks involved in forgiving others, since you feel what you did was wrong, whether they admit it or not. They may not even be sorry about it. They may feel perfectly justified in their actions, even going so far as to blame you for them. You know, this isn't about the other person. I've heard it said that unforgiveness is like eating poison yourself, thinking that it will hurt this other person. See, it's just a complete trick that is designed to destroy you and no one else. Other people are going to destroy themselves on their own. There's nothing you can do about them. Not a thing. But there are things that you can do for you. And so having the heart of Christ and having the heart of forgiveness, or even being willing to, this doesn't come easy. This ain't an easy thing. But we've got to follow the Lord in forgiveness to be set free. But forgiveness doesn't absolve anyone of blame or clear their record with God. It just clears you of having to worry about how to punish them. When you forgive another person, you're not declaring them innocent. You're just turning them over to God, who can be counted on to deal with them His way. You're saving yourself the trouble of scripting any more arguments or trying to prevail in this situation. It's not about winning and losing anymore. It's about freedom. It's about letting go, extending the mercy you have been given. That's why you often hear people who have genuinely forgiven another person say, "It felt like a weight being lifted off my shoulders." Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's like a breath of fresh air rushing into your heart. The stale dankness of the prison house is flooded with light and coolness. For the first time in a long time, you feel at peace. You feel free. But how do you do it? You release your anger and the responsibility for judging and punishing this person to the Lord. Never take your own revenge, beloved, but leave room for the wrath of God, for it is written, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay," says the Lord. That's Romans 12:19. You might still feel the need to confront them about what they've done, but regardless, forgiveness should go ahead and happen now. How do you know you've done it? You know it when the thought of their name or the sight of their face, rather than causing your blood to boil, causes you to feel sorry for them instead, to genuinely hope they get this turned around. Now, let me stop there and talk about the process of forgiveness, because we're humans, and when someone hurts us, that's a real thing. That you don't want to just make that small, because it's not. There's certain things that humans can do to you and those you love that we're talking are incredibly difficult to let go of. And so we don't want to make light of that or make that small. We want to have tools to work through the process properly, to gain health, to get strong, to overcome. And so I just have recently gone through something where I've had a former boss who, his way of doing things hurt a lot of people, hurt me, hurt a lot of people around the workplace where I work, and they were real hurts. Now he wasn't the devil or anything. It's just the way is a lot of situations and a lot of things that went the way they went. And here's the other thing: hurt people hurt people. It's our own wounds and our own issues when we don't deal with them that they're going to come out. They're especially going to come out on the ones that are closest to us. So if that's in a family, the the spouse is going to be hurt the most by your wounds. And they're going to respond to that because that's what people do typically on their own. Your children are going to be hurt by your wounds the most, your issues, your unresolved issues. Or if you're over a work environment and you're like the top guy and you're having to make a lot of decisions and you're working with people closely, then those issues are going to hurt other people. And I just had a boss that, just humans are humans, and he hurt a lot of people. And he's not here anymore. But after he was gone, uh, I was working through forgiveness and all these things anyway. I was keeping it fresh and current, and really asking the Lord, help me, help me, help me work through this in a Christ-like manner. Help me deal with this properly, and so forth and so on. But after he left and kind of the dust settled, uh, he kept coming to my mind over and over and over in a day, mostly because of coming back to my work environment and working here. He was attached to it. All the people here and everything that was left over from all the things that he did while he was here, those are issues that I had to confront on a daily basis. Things that weren't right. I would have to see them and then get a picture of him, and that anger and all this stuff come up. Your blood boiling is the same, that thing. And so here's what I learned in the process of being set free from this. And I'm still going through it. There's still times where I've still got to employ this, but every time it would come up and I want to come up and I want to just curse it and call down bad things on him, or just let it burn and boil and think about it, just meditate in that mess. I would immediately go into praying the blessings of God over him. I would pray for him as if he was my dearest, if he was my son, trying to get into a position where this is someone I care about deeply and I want God's blessings to pour out over him, and I want him to be blessed. And see, that was me choosing to get into the heart of Christ and to send that his way, as opposed to cursing and other things like that, because I understood that if I don't operate in the principle of treating others as I would like to be treated, then I'm going to suffer the consequences for that. I will get what it is I'm sending his way. I'm just calling it down on my own head, and that's not something I'm willing to do. I'm not going to let someone else's brokenness ruin me. That would be stupid to do, but it's also stupid to make it small and think that it's insignificant. We hurt people. People hurt people. We hurt each other. And it's a real hurt, and it really has to be walked through with a higher level of grace and a higher spirit, a greater way, a transcendent way. That's God's way. But you've got to give yourself to that process. You've got to give yourself to that way on purpose. You've got to initiate it and engage it and do it religiously. So what I did is I worked through the process of daily as it came. Every time it came, sometimes 50 times in a day, I just would go to prayer. I would just go to blessing. Bless him, bless him, bless him. And as I did that, I worked it all up out of me, so that I truly did have a heart of love and compassion and mercy and feeling sorry for him and really coming from a healthy place. And I was just cleaning myself out at the end of the day is what I was doing. And I was blessing another brother, because God cares. He cares about everybody. And it's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about we're all wrong. Humans are wrong. We're broken. We're messed up. Jesus is the only good. God is good. Humans are not. And so you either want to take that leap into Christ, or you just want to stay broken. And so that's really what forgiveness is. But I just wanted to make a point that it can be a process that you work through. And the process is complete when you do have sweet emotions come towards that person. God's done a work then. So knowing that God is the judge of all, Jesus said, if we have anything against anyone, we should forgive. That's Mark 11:25. And then never stop forgiving. That's Matthew 8:22. Bitterness will poison and drain the vitality out of any relationship. So when it's all said and done, the romance, intimacy, and enjoyment of your marriage is greatly dependent upon your mutual commitment to allow no unforgiveness to exist between the two of you. Great marriages are not produced by people who never hurt each other, only by people who daily choose to keep no record of wrongs. That's 1 Corinthians 13:5. So here's today's dare. Whatever you haven't forgiven in your mate, forgive it today. Let it go. Just as we ask Jesus to forgive us our debts, each day we must ask Him to help us forgive our debtors. Each day as well. Unforgiveness has been keeping you and your spouse in prison too long. Say from your heart, I choose to forgive. So that's a powerful one right there. You know, I've heard it said, and I think it's true, that your mate has the most potential to hurt you than anyone does, because they get on the inside and your weaknesses affect them greatly. And so that, I've talked about this in another video, in a healthy marriage, your problems are their problem, and their problem is your problem. And if y'all don't get together on that and aim at it together, then you can get just away from, you can get on the other side of each other and fire away at it, and you usually just hit the other person. And that's why you get wounded, and they did it. And then on top of that, you decide they know what they did, and they did it on purpose, which is not a good idea. Don't go down that road. So just forgiving and backing away and understanding I am broken and I realize I have some issues. I'm ready to forgive. I'm ready to learn a process of forgiveness, and I'm ready to learn in how to respond to my spouse's weaknesses in a way that they will be set free. And so a lot of the times it is praying for them in their weaknesses, staying in love and praying your grace and mercy, God's grace and mercy into their weak areas that they be made strong. Again, marriage is supposed to be this. And when we begin to operate in that way, we begin to get into this. Now it does take two, but you're going to be a lot better off, even if your other half doesn't have any clue. You're going to be a lot healthier in operating in these ways. So I hope this was helpful today. It is a big one and it is a tough one, but it is worth doing with all of your heart. So I pray God would bless you in the area of forgiveness, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.